Greetings and another welcome to you, our audience in Salem and Kaiser, to another version of our awesome authors. And we have an awesome author who's a poet of sonnets and and rhymed and unrhymed and all the other kind of fantasies that will embrace your heart and soul. Her name is LaVerne WineGardner. LaVerne,
right.
you were born not in Long Beach, but
No, Aberdeen, Idaho, a little town.
Aberdeen, Idaho. What is it like in Aberdeen? I've never heard of the
It's
place.
just a little farming town. They do have a golf course, but and a few odds and ends of. There's a main street about 2 feet long.
Oh my gosh. By the way, I am B. Lee Coyne, your host, retired journalist and writer for half a century or so. And you could even see the quill going through my nose. Imagine, what if? Okay, so you spent a lot of your time in Southern California, Long Beach.
It was a good place to grow up during my youth. Anyway, there were buses to take you everywhere, and you felt safe. I went downtown alone a lot of times on the bus when I was 9 years old. And
You were once 9 years old? That's
I
hard
was
to believe.
once 9 years old.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh. I thought that was just a rumor.
And I was once skinny too.
Let's get it. Okay. You won't tell the audience there. Make believe you didn't hear that, audience.
well.
Okay. And so you grew up in the Long Beach area. You went to school there. What were some of your good subjects?
Oh, I majored in music.
Music. Ah.
I like to sing. Had my debut in singing in the 4th grade.
Wow. What kind of stuff did you sing?
Well, at that, it was a little talent show at the school I went to. And I sang, it was wartime then, World War II.
Yeah.
And I sang the caisson song. Do you remember that one?
And the caissons go rolling along.
Yeah, that was fun.
Would you like to sing a song for us today?
No,
No, those days are
No,
over.
my singing days are over. I
Okay.
did a lot of singing.
And then,
I was fortunate.
did you do any actress type work? School plays?
I was in one operetta when we moved to Fullerton. That was later on, and when I was in the 8th grade.
What operetta?
I can't even remember the name now. I was the mother figure, and I only had one line, and it was recitative, so it wasn't a melodic thing to listen to.
Well,
anyway.
Hollywood won't come calling exactly now.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about your immersion in writing. You did some probably in school, in high school, college, what have you.
No, I never took a class in poetry. I studied to be a teacher after I stopped being a music major, and I figured, well, I'm just going to get married and have a lot of kids, so I need to know a little bit about kids, because I was an only child, because my brother passed away when I was 10. So that's a big sad point in my life.
Sure.
I really miss him. But forgotten what I was talking about now.
You were an only child, and you really didn't write very much in
I didn't
school.
write anything.
Well, everybody has compositions they have to write from class. Did you see any kind of promise in your
No,
ability?
but one teacher did. Of all the things that I've
What
written
grade? What
because you
grade?
have to, in the 6th grade,
6th grade.
Mrs. Jones. And it was a half page,
Yeah.
and she wrote on the bottom, "Nice." That's the only comment I've ever gotten that was positive on my writing.
Oh, okay.
So-
Got to start somewhere.
I found after I learned poetry, it was easier to do writing. And I actually sold writing before I sold my poems, so good thing.
What did you write about in the beginning, those early days?
Oh, it was a story about my father. I sent it to Good Old Days.
Good
Because
old
it was
days.
50 years past. And my dad was a great man, so I owed him that honor, I think.
What would you like to tell us in a sentence or two about what you remember about your dad and his traits, his attributes?
My dad was a great guy. He only had a 3rd grade education, but the most wonderful gift he gave to me was he kept telling Cloyd and I, my brother,
Yes.
and I, that we would have a better life than he has because we would have an education. And he kept his word, and
It came true.
we were never wealthy. We weren't even middle class for a long time. But I couldn't let him down, you know. So I studied hard, and finally became a teacher, and that's a different story too. But that takes up away from my poetry.
Okay.
So
Okay, what did you teach briefly?
4th, 5th, and 6th grades. A little bit of everything.
Did you have a favorite
5th
subject
grade.
that you taught, though?
5th grade talks about American history. I love that.
I'm an old history major also.
Mm-hmm.
Midweek confessional. But happy Father's Day belatedly to your dad.
Thank you.
3rd grade, but
Yeah.
succeeded in the hard knocks of life.
He was a good man.
Okay. So you have a whole plethora, litany, use big literary words,
I
of
try.
your writing. And I'd like to devote a lot of this program to samples. You've written 4 or 5 books of poetry. Let's start with iMusic. I'll hold it up to the camera. If you can get a close-up shot there. Close up, close up. This is called iMusic, Poetry by LaVerne WineGardner. And
That's some of my favorites.
choose one of your
as
favorites,
of-
and we'll
well,
share it
I
with the audience. And do look into the camera occasionally, because they want to see your pretty eyes.
Okay. Well, the first thing, I'll read this one about pansies. When I first started writing poetry, I had a book that told me there were 28 different types of poems at that time. There are many more now.
Yes.
And I thought, well, I'm going to learn to write every one of them. So I chose a subject, pansies I loved, and I now have a collection of 57 pansy poems.
Okay.
But I learned to write the different forms. Every day I would try another one, or every week or whatever.
What form is Pansies written in?
Yeah. It's called a minute. It's 60 syllables, and you're supposed to be able to read it in a minute. Okay?
Go.
Planting pansies. I've planted all my pansy seeds and pulled the weeds on my estate. And while I wait, I yearn for summer to appear, so I can hear the oohs and ahs when people pause to praise the pansies that I grow. I already know what they will say. Hip, hip, hooray.
Woohoo!
That's a good one.
That's good. Want to read one more from that?
Okay, I'll
Well,
just
these
read
are
the
short, so.
one on the other side. Let's see if there's any other.
Okay.
Oh, this is good enough. This started out, it's called A Piece of String, and
Oh,
I
yeah,
wrote it
I
as a
love that one.
sonnet.
Go,
I
sonnet.
love sonnets, but
Sonnet,
nobody
sonnet.
reads them. Nobody, it seems, likes sonnets. They want to do free verse all
You're
the
going
time.
to win a whole audience out there.
Anyway, A Piece of String. I changed it from a sonnet, and I wrote it like it were free verse.
Yeah.
I thrill at the magnificence of string. I marvel at the magic that entwines itself in endless ways, creating things of cleverness with intricate designs. A weaver in conformity assigns a pattern the strings obey. In his collection of colors, threads of many shades align themselves into a promise of perfection. And trying for variety, direction bends each delicate skein to little increments of elegance, till fashion's final inspection dares to share a plethora of compliments. When seen by an imaginative heart, a piece of string becomes a work of art.
Beautifully rendered. Thank you. What inspired that particular poem?
I had some little visitors one day from my church. Their grandma brought them over to sing for my birthday. That was really sweet of her. And so I wrote them a poem. And it wasn't this one, but that inspired me. One was dancing a dance with some strings and some,
Very picturesque.
yeah, very nice anyway.
Okay.
So.
Tell us, you said that you really began writing at the age of 65 after retirement. What was the spur that got you into writing poetry?
Well, that's a good question because it was watching CCTV on at home after
Oh my
I
gosh.
didn't have anything
You
else
guys
to
are
do.
responsible.
And I was just clicking around on the channels, and up came this. It was sort of like a bulletin board, and they were inviting you to come to all the different things that were offered at the library. And one of them says, "Would you like to learn how to write? Come see us at 1 o'clock on Thursdays." And And I did.
You succumbed.
I took my pansy poem, it's the only one I had, and I said, I'm here. And they liked it. I was glad for that. So,
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, for those of you who are interested in writing, we invite you, all of you out there, to come forth to the plaza room of the library any given Thursday, except for Thanksgiving, roughly 12:30 to 2:30 sometimes, to 3, and you have a chance to go around the circle, and you all get an opportunity to share your goodies. If you just want to come and listen, and it's very free entertainment, see what other people are doing. If your life is humdrum, if you have nothing better to do but sit and watch television, including this show, you might want to wander out and meet some very interesting people who are talented and gifted, but pretty humble about it. And that's every Thursday, 12:30 to 2:30 at the library. We have rotating chairs and all different kinds of things. That's how I met some of these lovely people.
Don't forget the senior center.
There's also one at the senior
At the
center.
senior center on Wednesdays.
Wednesdays, 1 to 3, and LaVerne is the coordinator of that particular operation. Good.
That's the fun one.
Okay. What advice would you have for people who are just breaking into poetry and need a little extra added push of self-confidence? What would you tell them that will motivate them?
One year we decided that we would not be commercial at Christmas time. We would all make something for the gifts for everybody.
Yes.
We drew names, so I only had to make one thing. But I thought, what can I do that's different? And I don't know why it came to me, but I thought I'll write a poem about each of my grandchildren, and I'll put it in a little book and give it to them. And I did. And they all liked it. I was so pleased because I'd see them go into another room and sit down on the couch and read. They wanted to hear everybody's poem. They wanted to read everybody's poem. And I was just tickled. So on New Year's Day, I sat down and I wanted to read through again this finished book that I was so proud of. And it was awful. Every poem sounded the same, exactly the same, although it was written about different people. There wasn't enough variety, and that's what I needed more than anything else. A lot of people don't like to be stuck on one string, sort of thing. So, that Christmas, a friend of mine gave me a book on rhymes, and it was I was going to bring that book, but I didn't. Big, thick book by Burgess, a rhyming dictionary. But the first 60 pages were a breakdown of the different kinds of poetry and the rhyming patterns and the length of the stanzas and all of that. And it was fascinating. And I just read that more than once. I got so many good ideas. And every week, I guess, I would pick a poem, a style, I should say, and write a pansy poem.
Terrific, yeah.
And they all sounded different because they were in a different style.
I've written some poems myself, actually, and fortunately, 2 of them did place as winners in the Willamette University Annual Poetry Contest, which is held in the month of April as National Poetry Month.
Good.
And maybe sometime on this show I will share the shorter one. It's about ice cream. So the summertime comes. It's called The Sweet Tooth Sweet, and it relates to all flavors of ice cream. And a fanatic who can't resist anything becomes his whole obsessive world.
I like ice cream.
It's a humorous kind of tongue-in-cheek type poem, and it has a nice beat to it there. And I think some of the sweet tooth people out there can really relate to it quite readily. Okay. By the way, did you know that Salem is probably the only city in the United States that has a poem embedded in outdoor mosaic, namely the Salem Peace Mosaic at the YMCA has a poem written by Paula Ann Paulson, who is the most recent state poet laureate. She just retired from that and someone else took over, but that's written. It's a poem about the state capitol. So if you pass the Salem Family YMCA right on the corner of Court Street and Cottage Street, it's right there, the beautiful mural. I had responsibility of putting together the group that made that particular mosaic become possible. And we had we have over 600 volunteers, and kids designed that. It probably is the only mosaic in the country, maybe the world, that's totally designed by kids. And then Lynn Takata, who is very talented in mosaics, she put the pieces together and the ultimate design.
Very good.
So poetry
I
is
think I have
embedded.
a poem in that contest too. No, it wasn't a contest. It was a
chapbook.
my invitation to write. Yes,
Yeah,
some poems.
that was a wonderful
nice.
experience for all of us and all. Are there any misconceptions about poetry that people who are not poetic have that we should kind of dispel their mythology?
Well, I have a friend, a teacher, a gentleman, and he teaches fourth grade, and so I would substitute. After a while, I just subbed. I didn't teach full time. I took one of my sonnets down to show him because he's a poet. He was a poet, and I held it up to him and said, "Would you like to read my new poem?" And he looked at it. He said, "Oh, LaVerne," he says, "I don't write that kind of poem. I do free verse, you know." So I pulled out I knew what he was going to say, so I pulled out another one, and I said, "Well, here's one in free verse." She said, "Oh, good," he said, and he took it. It was the same poem. I had just written one like free verse and the other one like a sonnet, and I laugh at that every time I think of it.
Which is harder to do for you, free verse or rhyme poem? Which is more difficult, rhyme or free verse?
Well, I think free verse is because you have to. There are not as many rules for free verse as there are for rhymed verse, but you have to know how to fill in the in middle sounds of the vowels, maybe in the same, like Peter Piper picked, you know, like that. You can do that. You can do the vowel sounds.
Explain to our audience what onomatopoeia means.
Onomatopoeia means the sounds of things, and that's really
not your
good.
everyday word.
They also echoes, which is something I just learned this month. What an echo is.
What is the kind of poem that begins and ends with the same word, almost like a?
Oh, a loop. It's a loop story or a loop poem, I guess.
Do you have one with you to share? Or not really.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Yeah, out of, let's say, this book.
Okay.
Playing with acrostics. Here we go. Playing with acrostics. Close up. Close up. Woo. Okay. Tell us what acrostics are.
An acrostic is.
This is something very educational that most of us don't know. It's a well-kept secret.
You put the name of the title of the poem straight down the left side, and then you put across from each letter a word. To make
almost like a Scrabble thing, going away and then zipping out.
Yep. Here's one where I can wiggle the letters a little bit.
Okay. Here's one called Thunder Lightning, and you can see close up how it zigzags. And I'm going to read this for you this time.
Okay.
Thunder is, I'll do the letter T. Thunder is. H. Heard until it's you. N. Noise. D. Dissolves into. E. Echoes or R. Rumbles. And L. Lightning flashes, illuminating the sky. With G. Great white gashes. H. Heavenly harbingers. It's alliteration. T. Tracing their mighty messages in narrow streaks of light, which I illustrate our frailty. To N. Negate the powers of G. God. There we go.
You don't have to say the letter.
I know. I'm just.
And that kind of ruins your rhythm.
Emphasizing it. Why don't you read it in plain without the letter?
Okay.
You do your version. Go ahead.
Thunder is heard until its noise dissolves into echoes or rumbles, and lightning flashes, illumining the sky with great white gashes. Heavenly harbingers trace their mighty messages in narrow streaks of light, which illustrate our frailty to negate the powers of God.
Beautifully expressed. Very creative.
I like some of these. Here's an acrostic with the sounds at the beginning of the line and also the same sounds at the end. Here's a letter, and these are syllables.
Oh, wow. This is about buzz off of the bees.
I just want to show you that was really hard to do.
Okay.
but it was fun to do.
So, okay, let's read that to
You want to read
our
that?
audience out there.
Okay, it's B-U-G. It's a bug, and then at the end it has the syllables B and U, Y-O-U, and G, E-E.
Intriguing.
Bothersome little insects, like the honeybee, used to orbit over me and sometimes over you, gliding in a beeline from its distant apogee. But today I have a way to stop that honeybee. Unappealing as it sounds, let me suggest to you, get a jar and learn the joys of entomology.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that the study of language is etymology?
Yes, my
And-
mama,
and
Ida
bugs.
Coyne, taught me that when I was yay high.
Yeah, that's good.
One of my
There's a-
first long words.
Those are fun to do. There are different kinds. You can do them with just one word. I don't know if I have any like that. But
Good. What's the biggest challenge that you faced in doing a poem? You sometimes give yourself challenges.
oh yeah, every poem is a challenge because you write it and then a day or two later, you know you have to revise it and fix it in places. You put some sounds in the middle or some different words to describe, and you sometimes a year later you'll pick it up and say, no, I want to fix that a little bit more, because you keep learning more and more as you go along,
Yes.
and it's fun. It's so much fun.
Okay. Let me make a little plug. The state's annual fair, the annual state fair, last week in August, there will be, as usual, a writers and poets table. People who are authors here in the state of Oregon, all over the state, who've been published. They will share with you their books. They will sign them. They will answer your questions about them. So should you come to the fair, go take advantage. All's fair in love and fairdom.
Love and poetry.
Okay.
Very good.
What else would you like to tell us? You have something
Well,
called
this was kind of-
concrete images,
Yeah.
shape poems. Oh, this is interesting.
Oh, there, yeah.
The shape poems means that, here it is.
You
Where
write
we're-
the poem about whatever the shape of it is.
Yes, so it's built, these are poems are built like a mountain or a pyramid.
The Mountains of Ireland.
The Mountains of Ireland, I'll read an example. The Irish in America outnumber all, the clan back home. They've learned to love America, yet sometimes they get homesick, feeling all alone until they discover the telephone.
Okay.
Read another.
Read this one together, but don't
Okay.
stop at the end of the line. Just keep reading it
Okay.
down like it's all one
The
sentence.
Irish love to eat potatoes fried for lunch or creamed in a bowl, sometimes eaten lumpily and always served to company. Getting hungry just reading that.
fun.
Éireann go bra is indeed the noble creed of every Irishman. 'Tis said that the Irish endured godless slavery and practiced great bravery throughout the many centuries since they were taught Christianity. Éireann go bra. I have an Irish name and a little, maybe mingled into my green blood, a little Hibernian leprechaun, occasionally Peter's Forth.
These two are two of my favorites. This is a Christmas tree that's written like an Irish blessing.
Okay, good.
And this is a kite. It's
Okay.
about my brother who
Yeah.
built a little kite for me
Okay,
to show.
let's do the one on the kite because we're a little away from the Christmas season, so I
Oh,
think.
okay.
Go fly your kite, babe, people.
I wish I had a very small kite to soar the big blue sky.
Uh-huh.
I said it softly, but my brother must have heard me sigh.
Yes.
'Cause into his room he'd disappeared that day in early spring, and with a smile upon his face, he did a wondrous thing. With tissue paper, 2 short sticks, and 1 large ball of twine, he built a white and tiny kite and told me it was mine. I helped him fashion a ragged tail and followed him outside. He launched it high into the wind while I hung on with pride. I took my little kite to school, but it did not inspire till it became the 5th grade's highest tiny flyer. I won the contest.
I like that. Congratulations. Belatedly, LaVerne.
Anyway, it's fun.
Okay.
And you got to see this one. I know it's strong. This one is really different.
Okay, we're winding down.
Uh-huh.
It's going to be
It's a
curtain call
snowman.
soon. Okay,
So,
go to it.
since it was a snowman, I used the O rhyme for every line.
Good.
And every line then ends at the end. You can stop at the end of each. You want to hear it?
Yes, go with our 3-minute countdown.
Oh, okay. Oh, do you remember years ago, whenever it would start to snow, house and warmth we did forego, just to frolic in the snow.
Mm-hmm.
Donning mittens and chapeau, boots and coats and scarves in tow, we crafted snowball embryos into an icy man of snow. Yelling in fortissimo, we rolled 3 spheres magnifico, stacking each upon the larger one below. Then we dressed our badly shapen impresario with daddy's scarf and beaver hat for his trousseau. A carrot nose, potato eyes, and apple cheeks aglow, creating what we thought a gentleman should show. And finally, with one grand touch of braggadocio, we laddered up to heights of swooning vertigo, adding to his hat a jolly sprig of mistletoe. Ho, ho, ho.
Ho, ho, ho. That's a wonderful closing to our
It's fun.
show practically.
Yeah,
And
I love these
Yeah.
shaped ones.
so all of you aspiring poets, come by to our Wednesday, 1 p.m. group, Center 50 Plus. We'll even take you if you're under 50. We'd like to inspire you. Poetry and prose. Anybody who's just getting into the writing game, here's your chance to expose yourself to a supportive group who will care for you, who will love you, give you tender, loving care, and encourage you to write more and more. And we gently critique you. It won't be hurtful at all. And you could bring some munchies to share there as well as the good company now. And we're going to be having many more writers coming down the line, so make sure that you tell all your friends to go onto YouTube. YouTube has us now, and all you have to do is put down in the tab, your search engine, Our Awesome Authors. Again, Our Awesome Authors -CCTV, and you'll get our whole plethora, litany, assortment of shows, and we wish you myriad blessings. In the meantime, this is B. Lee Coyne, your journalist friend, originally from Queens, New York, Fresh Meadows, signing off and sharing with you for the first time ever my nickname in English class in high school, the Short Longfellow. Signing off. Great. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you in the days ahead. Bye for now.
Bye.
That's all, folks.